My grandmother had a soup pot that never left the stove. She called it garbage soup, and every scrap, every peel, every leftover bone went into it. I thought it was disgusting until I learned it's the reason she survived. There are 24 other meals just like this, dishes so clever and so desperate that an entire generation kept them hidden. Until now. Back then, the mac and cheese dish didn't come neatly packed in a convenient box from the supermarket like it does now. It was made by hand, slowly, meticulously, and full of Grandma's love. Grandma would start by heating a little butter or lard in a pan, sprinkling flour over it along with milk, and stirring constantly until the mixture thickened into a rich, creamy sauce. This pasta mixture was then poured into a dish, topped with breadcrumbs or crushed crackers for crunch, and baked in the oven until the top was crispy and a beautiful golden brown. This dish was truly a lifesaver meal during tough times. Back in the 30s to 40s, a pound of cheese cost only about 15 cents. For a total ingredient cost of under 50 cents, this homemade mac and cheese was enough to feed 6 people in a family. It provided essential calcium and protein on days when meat was scarce and expensive. Our grandparents would probably shake their heads in surprise to see modern versions of mac and cheese with all sorts of luxurious ingredients like truffle oil. Because for them, simplicity and economic efficiency were the most valuable legacies. When money was tight, potatoes rose up to become the silent hero of the kitchen. They were a cheap, easy-to-find tuber that gave a lasting full feeling, providing plenty of starch at a low cost. Potato soup is a dish so simple, it couldn't be simpler, but it was a hearty, warm meal that provided comfort on cold days. Grandma would dice the potatoes and onions, then simmer them in water or milk if she could afford it. She let the mixture simmer slowly on the stove until the potatoes were soft and mushy, naturally breaking down to thicken the soup without needing expensive cream or thickeners. During the Great Depression, potatoes were dirt cheap, only about 2 cents a pound. To maximize resources, Grandma might add celery leaves, the green tops that most people usually throw away today because the celery stalks were too precious an ingredient to waste at that time. A hot bowl of potato soup smelling of simmered onions enough for 6 people usually cost less than 20 cents. For many people, especially Irish immigrants, this soup wasn't just a meal, but it also carried memories of survival. Potato soup helped prevent starvation and ensured that at least the family still had a hot and calorie-filled meal to get through the long day. When potatoes were peeled for mashed dishes or potato soup, the peels were also thoroughly utilized by our grandparents. It sounds funny and a bit thrifty by modern standards, but potato peel soup truly was a lifesaver for many families during extremely difficult times. The potato peels were scrubbed clean and kept thick, then simmered with onions and a little salt. The resulting broth would be thickened by adding a little flour, creating a warm soup that, although not rich, still filled an empty stomach. The cost to make this soup was almost nothing. This soup helped extract nutrition and vitamins from every piece of food. Government posters even encouraged people to make this soup during World War II as a way to maximize precious food resources. Did you know about this potato peel soup? Or have you ever heard of it? If you can, please try bringing this dish back to your kitchen and then share your feelings below the video. In all the survival recipes we've explored, none captures the cleverness in the face of scarcity better than water pie. This pie carried emotional nicknames such as the Depression Pie or Desperation Pie. When the family couldn't afford milk, eggs, or cream, the essential components of a decent dessert, Grandma still managed to create a small bit of sweetness. The recipe starts with an already baked empty pie crust. Instead of pouring milk in, what was poured in was water. The water was mixed with sugar, a little flour for thickening, butter, usually the cheapest kind, or lard if needed, and a little vanilla for fragrance. This simple mixture, when baked, turned into a filling with a thick texture just like custard. Water pie was a way to create a dessert from almost nothing. It helped maintain dignity and a sense of normalcy for the family during unusual times. The sad thing is that due to the deep shame related to poverty, The fact that no one admits their family ever made water pie has become a mark of the discretion and self-respect of that generation. This is a duo that nourished millions of people through many difficult generations. Rice and beans. Dried beans were an extremely economical ingredient, costing only about 5 cents a pound in the 40s. Grandma carefully washed the dried beans, then soaked them in water overnight. The next morning, the beans were put on the stove, simmering all day long over the heat. This slow simmering process not only softened the beans, but also allowed the flavors to penetrate deeply. To add richness and fat, Grandma would season them with a little salt pork, or if the family was luckier, a ham bone left over from Sunday dinner. In the southern United States, this dish became a tradition made on Mondays. That was the day when women in the family were usually busy with heavy laundry work, and the rice and beans could slowly simmer on the stove without needing too much supervision. A large pot of rice and beans could feed a family of up to 8 people. The core principle of this dish, cheap, filling, and nutritious, still holds true today, offering a lesson on how to effectively use the most basic ingredients. This soup has a less than flattering name, garbage soup. But it represents the remarkable resourcefulness of our grandparents to the extent that it was respectfully called perpetual soup. This was a revolutionary cooking strategy, ensuring that not a single piece of nutritious food ended up in the actual trash can. This perpetual soup pot was a fixture in the kitchen. It was always kept warm on the back of the stove, simmering slowly throughout the day. This was the gathering place for everything considered leftovers about to spoil. Vegetable peels left after trimming, small pieces of meat bone saved from dinner, wilted greens or old tough vegetables. New additions joined the broth daily, continuously enriching the flavor of the soup. Even potato water, which we usually pour away, was added by Grandma to create body and increase nutrition. This soup was survival in liquid form. It provided a steady source of vitamins and flavor for the family, especially important on days when there was no fresh food or meat for cooking. This dish has a more formal name often used in the military: on toast. This is the breakfast that turned excess meat drippings, something modern people usually throw away, into liquid gold. Our grandmothers would carefully save the melted meat fat from previous meals and use that very fat to make a roux with flour, stirring continuously until the mixture turned a pale yellow. This mixture was then stirred with milk or water to create a rich, savory gravy. This gravy was then poured over soft, fluffy biscuits. These biscuits were also made from the most basic ingredients, flour and lard, because butter was too expensive back then. When the family truly faced economic hardship, the gravy might contain very little or absolutely no meat. In those cases, people sprinkled a lot of black pepper on top to create a richer feeling and as a small trick to fool the eye, creating the impression that the gravy had more ingredients, or at least more flavor. Even today, this dish is still served at roadside diners as a legacy of economical cuisine. Cabbage was the working person's vegetable during hard times. It was tough, easy to grow, cheap, and especially available even during the cold winter months. From that, it was utilized to make braised cabbage and sausage, a proof of the perfect combination of economy and rich flavor. Cabbage was sliced largely, then slowly simmered with any cheap sausage available. During the simmering process, the fat and rich flavor from the meat would render out, soaking into every slice of cabbage, making the cabbage softer and much more flavorful. This simple dish was often prepared by European immigrant families, bringing with them flavors and cooking techniques from the old world. What's amazing is that a whole head of cabbage cost only about 3 cents. Its economy lay in its ability to stretch the meal. A large pot of braised cabbage and sausage could feed the whole family for 3 or even 4 days straight just by reheating it. It was a practical solution, helping Grandma solve the problem of protein and greens for hungry stomachs at minimal cost, a hearty and complete vegetable meal during times of scarcity. Before lentils became a favorite food among the healthy eating and wellness crowd, they were an indispensable survival food in poor families. Lentil soup, is a prime example of maximum nutrition at minimum cost. Lentils had a big advantage over other dried beans. They did not need to be soaked overnight, helping the cook save preparation time and cooking fuel. Grandma would simmer the lentils along with the cheapest vegetables like carrots or onions. Even during truly difficult times, the soup might just be beans, water, and a little salt, but it still provided significant energy. Priced at only 4 cents a pound, lentils provided more protein than almost any other ingredient of the same economic value. Just 1 pound of dry lentils could be cooked into enough soup to feed a family for 2 days. This soup didn't just fill the stomach, but also ensured nutrient delivery, proving the nutritional power hidden in the humblest ingredients. Sloppy Joe's is an American food classic, but it truly came from economic necessity rather than just convenience. Grandma would brown a pound of ground beef, and then when money was tight, she would stretch that amount of meat by adding breadcrumbs or oatmeal to the mixture. This way, 1 pound of meat could serve twice the number of people. The meat mixture was simmered in a sauce made from ketchup and spices, creating a rich filling that was slightly sweet and salty. This meat filling was then scooped onto soft round buns. Ground beef was always significantly cheaper than steaks or other fresh meats. When served with bread, 1 pound of ground beef could feed up to 8 people. Sloppy Joe's became a classic meal that parents of that time loved for its economy and its ability to quickly fill stomachs. The feeling of biting into a bun overflowing with hot, slightly saucy meat filling was a rare feeling of being satisfied. If these stories bring back warm memories and honor the previous generation, let's hit the like button right below the video. And together, we will preserve this precious legacy. When meat was a luxury that couldn't be bought often, eggs became the main protein choice, easily substituting for meat in daily meals. Egg salad sandwiches became a staple dish, especially during the rationing period of World War II. To make this dish, hard-boiled eggs were mashed, then mixed with mayonnaise. Mayonnaise was often homemade by Grandma to save costs. Along with mustard, chopped pickles, salt, and pepper added to enhance the flavor, this rich and savory mixture was spread thickly between 2 slices of bread. Eggs were a cheap and abundant source of protein. Priced at only 15 cents a dozen in the 40s, egg salad sandwiches not only provided protein, but also packed very well. It was a perfect dish to take on the road, frequently appearing in the lunch boxes of workers and children going to school. Carrying the flavor of economy and thoughtfulness, the feeling of crispy pickles and the richness of the mayonnaise blending with the egg is an unforgettable experience. In the southern and southwestern United States, cornbread and pinto beans is a sacred culinary tradition tied to the resilience of working people. Dry pinto beans were simmered in a large pot, carefully seasoned with salt pork or ham hocks if they were available. Accompanying the beans was cornbread made from cornmeal, an ingredient that was always cheaper and easier to find than wheat flour. Cornbread back then usually had a rustic texture and wasn't too sweet. The special thing about this meal was how it was enjoyed. Cornbread would be used to soak up the bean liquid, a rich broth called pot liquor. This combination formed a complete meal, providing all the necessary nutrients from the plant protein of the beans to the carbohydrates of the corn. Even then, nothing was wasted. Leftovers would be fried into thin patties the next morning for breakfast. This dish is a lesson in using up the most basic ingredients creatively and effectively being both filling and nutritious. American families created their own version of fried rice from leftovers long before Chinese takeout became widely popular. This period's fried rice is a perfect testament to the no-waste philosophy. Grandma would carefully spread the leftover white rice from the night before onto a plate and let it dry naturally. This helped prevent the rice from getting mushy when fried. Then the next day, she would fry the rice with anything left in the refrigerator. That was usually scrambled eggs, a few small pieces of leftover meat, and vegetables that needed to be used up quickly. The cost to make this fried rice was almost zero, as it was made from ingredients that should have been thrown away. Instead of using expensive soy sauce, People often use Worcestershire sauce to create a similar savory flavor that had more depth. This meal turned the plain white rice from last night into an exciting and flavorful dinner tonight. A clever way to stretch food for one more day. The feeling of eating light, crispy fried rice grains along with sweet vegetable pieces was a warm experience. Hot dogs, also called the people's meat, were an extremely cheap and convenient protein during economically difficult times. This simple dish usually included hot dogs boiled or lightly fried, served with macaroni salad. Hot dogs cost only about 10 cents a pound. Macaroni salad was homemade by Grandma, mixed with a simple mayonnaise dressing with chopped pickles and spices added. This dish was a cold meal especially loved by family members in the summer. On hot days, cooking on the stove could heat up the whole house. So, a cold, easy-to-prepare meal like this was a real lifesaver. People often said that homemade macaroni salad was actually better after being left overnight in the refrigerator once the flavors of the mayonnaise and pickles had soaked deep into the pasta. This combination provided satisfaction, convenience, and economy, creating a humble but complete summer feast. Tuna casserole is a recipe that became popular in the 40s and quickly revolutionized weeknight dinners for many American families. Its success was based on the economy and convenience of its main ingredient, canned tuna. Canned tuna was a cheap protein source, and most importantly, it did not require refrigeration for storage, which was very convenient for families who didn't have or couldn't afford a modern refrigerator. This casserole was made by mixing canned tuna with egg noodles, then adding canned cream of mushroom soup. This mixture was then poured into a dish and baked. The final topping was crushed crackers to create crispiness and an attractive golden color on the surface. This tuna casserole had the ability to feed 6 people for a cost of under 50 cents. It became so popular that variations of this casserole were printed in countless community cookbooks across the U.S., becoming a symbol of post-war convenience food, a dish whose smell evoked warmth and Grandma's care. Baked potatoes are a humble dish, but were a canvas for culinary creativity during times of poverty. Their simplicity lies in baking large potatoes until the outer skin is crispy and the inside flesh is soft and smooth. To save precious fuel, instead of using an electric or gas oven, many families bake potatoes directly in the hot coals of the fireplace or wood stove. This method not only cooked the potatoes, but also brought a distinctive smoky flavor, adding to the appeal of the dish. Priced at only 2 cents per pound, potatoes remain one of the most economical and effective ways to fill hungry stomachs. Toppings used were anything available. It could be leftover chili from the night before, a few pieces of crumbled bacon, or a spoonful of sour cream. Just one large baked potato was filling enough to become a complete meal. People just had to slice the hot potato lengthwise, squeeze gently to fluff up the flesh, and then add the toppings. It was a hearty, warm meal, demonstrating the cleverness of turning simple things into a dish with high nutritional value. The combination of grilled cheese and tomato soup is a classic duo, almost the national comfort food of the Great Depression era. The bread was grilled until golden and crispy, with the cheese layer inside melted and savory. This dish was usually served with tomato soup, a soup that often came from a can. Campbell's tomato soup was a popular choice, costing only 10 cents a can and could be diluted or stretched to serve 4 people. During World War II, when butter was rationed and became scarce, families found a wonderful solution. They spread mayonnaise on the bread instead of butter for grilling. Mayonnaise was not only cheaper, but also created a crispier, more golden grilled bread crust. The tomato soup played an important role in cutting through the richness of the cheese, creating a balanced, cozy, and incredibly satisfying meal that provided comfort during difficult times. Stuffed peppers were a clever strategy. Grandma used to use up leftover rice and stretch a small amount of ground meat. This dish turned a humble piece of meat into a complete and attractive meal, making dinner feel a little more special. Large bell peppers were cored, then stuffed with a mixture of cooked rice, ground beef or pork, and seasoning. To increase volume while still saving costs, the filling was often stretched by adding breadcrumbs that had been soaked in milk or water. Families with gardens often grew bell peppers specifically for this dish, helping to save on vegetable costs. Once stuffed, the peppers were slowly baked in a simple tomato sauce. Each stuffed pepper was a complete meal wrapped up. It had vegetables, grains from the rice, and protein. The aroma of tomato sauce and baked peppers spreading throughout the house signaled a hearty dinner. This dish is a symbol of thoughtfulness and maximizing resource utilization, showing the ingenuity of women in turning cheap food into a favorite meal. The true magic of beef stew lies in its ability to turn tough, cheap cuts of meat into something soft, delicious, and hearty. Instead of buying expensive steak, Grandma would buy stew meat. These were the scraps and tough, sinewy pieces of meat that butchers couldn't sell as steak. The meat was quickly seared to lock in flavor, then simmered with the cheapest vegetables like potato, carrots, and onions. The key to this dish was the waiting. The meat had to be slowly simmered for many hours on the stove until the tough pieces became soft and melted in the mouth. The aroma of simmering beef stew spread throughout the house on cold days, bringing a rare feeling of warmth and abundance. A pot of beef stew could feed the entire family for many days just by reheating it and serving it with rustic bread. It was the perfect combination of protein, starch, and vegetables. A simple but complete meal. Tater tot casserole is a particularly beloved dish in the American Midwest, beginning to appear and become popular in the 50s when frozen foods and canned soups became affordable. This dish gave a feeling of modernity and convenience while still maintaining the necessary economy. The recipe includes ground beef mixed with canned soup, usually cream of mushroom soup, and then this mixture is covered with frozen potato tots arranged in neat rows. Like many other ground meat dishes, this casserole is very economical. 1 pound of ground beef could feed up to 8 people when combined with other ingredients. Tater tot casserole became an indispensable item at community gatherings and church potlucks to the extent that people said there were always at least 3 different versions of this casserole brought to the event. On the list of survival meals, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches might seem simple, but peanut butter was truly a cheap protein source. And most importantly, it did not spoil and did not need refrigeration. This dish fed countless children during the Great Depression. Grandma would spread a thick layer of peanut butter, then add jelly. The jelly was often made from wild berries picked in season or from the cheapest fruit available to buy. A jar of peanut butter cost about 25 cents at that time and could make dozens of sandwiches. This dish quickly provided necessary protein, fat, and carbohydrates. It was not only nutritious and cheap, but also a symbol of normalcy, a familiar food that helped children get through the lean years. Cabbage rolls are a traditional dish of the Old World brought to America along with Eastern European immigrants. Like stuffed peppers, this was an excellent strategy to stretch a small amount of meat using starch and vegetables. Cabbage leaves were quickly dipped in hot water to soften them, making them easy to roll. The filling inside was ground meat mixed with cooked rice. During the toughest times, the filling might be mostly rice with only a small amount of meat added for flavor and a savory feeling. The cabbage rolls were then slowly simmered in tomato sauce. This dish was not only a hearty meal that brought a cozy feeling, but also a combination of many cultures, demonstrating the resourcefulness in turning cheap vegetables into a valuable dish. In 1937, while the American economy was still reeling from the Great Depression, a revolutionary product was born: Spam. This convenient canned product quickly rose to become an indispensable staple in the kitchens of millions of families, especially during the harsh years of World War II. Spam's success did not come from delicate flavor, but from its economy and stability. In an era when refrigeration was still a luxury, or during wartime, when electricity and supplies could be interrupted at any time, Spam's long shelf life turned it into a true treasure. Grandma would slice Spam into moderately thick pieces, then drop them into a hot pan. These pink can slices would quickly turn golden brown, crispy and salty on the outside, while remaining soft and savory inside. This crispy fried Spam was often served with scrambled eggs for breakfast to provide instant fat and protein, or sandwiched between 2 slices of rustic bread for a filling lunch. Priced at only 25 cents a can, Spam provided an important source of protein, salt, and fat, helping families maintain energy for work. Although we may have more choices today, these simple cans of meat truly saved countless families from starvation and were survival food for millions of people. Before it became the familiar cheap food of college students and young people living in dorms, ramen noodles were introduced to America as an exotic convenience food in the 50s. Initially, it was an adaptation of imported cuisine, but it was quickly adopted by working families because of its economy and fast preparation speed. Packaged ramen was a small miracle. Just hot water and a few minutes resulted in a satisfying bowl of hot noodles. However, our grandmothers didn't just simply cook the noodles according to the package instructions. They applied their kitchen smarts to turn this simple dry noodle dish into a more nutritious meal. She often cooked the noodles in broth seasoned with the included flavor packet. Or to save more, she used cheap chicken bouillon cubes to create a rich broth. To boost the protein and greens content, she often found ways to add more. If the family had a small garden or even a window box, she would chop up some scallions. Especially a popular trick was to crack a beaten egg straight into the simmering soup pot. The egg would instantly form soft, silky protein ribbons, making the soup much richer and more nutritious. The hot broth, smelling of egg and scallions, made this simple bowl of noodles feel like a complete warm meal that effectively filled the stomach. Spaghetti and marinara sauce became a cozy and economical dish, an indispensable part of American cuisine thanks to the efforts of Italian immigrants. They taught their American neighbors a priceless lesson. Good food does not necessarily require expensive ingredients, just care and creativity in the cooking process. Marinara sauce is the essence of simplicity and economy. It is made primarily from canned tomatoes, an ingredient that is always cheap and available year-round. Canned tomatoes cost only 10 cents a can, an extremely affordable price to form the foundation of a big meal. Grandma would simmer the marinara sauce on the stove, adding basic seasonings like garlic, basil, and oregano. This slow simmering process allowed the flavors of the tomatoes and spices to blend deeply, creating a rich, warm sauce. Pasta itself is an extremely economical starch. A pound of pasta cost only about 15 cents and was enough to feed 6 people. This dish was a perfect meal for stretching expenses while still ensuring the necessary amount of starch to keep you full for a long time, proving that family satisfaction and fullness did not depend on the value of the ingredients. Shakshuka. While many American families focused on canned meat or dried beans, immigrants from the Middle East brought another cheap and extremely effective protein solution, shakshuka. This is an economical dish using eggs as the main protein source. Shakshuka is proof that you can create a dish with exceptional flavor that feels luxurious, even though its ingredients are extremely humble. The recipe is simply eggs poached directly in seasoned tomato sauce. The sauce is usually made from canned tomatoes seasoned with basic spices like chili powder and cumin. Shakshuka has a big practical advantage. It's a one-pan meal, very convenient and fast. Grandma gently cracked each egg directly into the simmering sauce. The eggs would cook slowly in that warm liquid, creating a golden, rich yolk and soft whites. This dish provided necessary protein and vegetables and was often made whenever eggs were the only protein they could easily and cheaply afford. In terms of cost, shakshuka was almost free to make. We have finished exploring the 25 dishes our grandparents cooked for survival during hard times. If this journey back through memory lane has brought back warm images of your grandparents' kitchen, please hit the like and subscribe buttons to join us as we continue this journey of discovering, preserving, and honoring this precious past legacy. See you again in the next nostalgic stories and history lessons.